Hi everyone, welcome back to AWOL. Thank you so much to everyone who watched the last video. I know there'd been a little bit of a gap between the previous video and that one, but it got a pretty good response. I was really happy with that. Today, it's not going to be an overnighter. We're not doing a camp. What I'm going to focus on are ways of starting fire in the damp. Now, it is annoyingly not raining right now, which is a pain in the ass. It was, however, tipping it down yesterday, so everything around me is damp to a greater or lesser degree. We're just coming to the end of summer here in Britain. The last couple of weeks, it's really started to turn. We're starting to see a lot more rain. Looks like we're going to be in for a hard winter. So I'm going to run through a few things today that you can use to start a fire in the rain. And these will range from the very easy to the slightly more bushcrafty complex ones, depending on what kind of gear you have with you at that time. So that being said, what I'm going to do first is just have a quick discussion about sort of your mentality around what you need to be doing when it's wet conditions in order to get a fire going. So without further ado, we'll move into that. So one of the first things of survival mentality is you shouldn't always plan on being able to make a fire. If it is an absolute torrential downpour and you're out in the woods and everything is soaked and that rain's just coming down on top of you, you're not going to get a fire going. Or if you somehow do manage to do it, the sheer amount of time and calories you burn to get that fire going will almost certainly negate any benefits of having that fire going. So that's always something to bear in mind. If the conditions are really, really awful, is it worth you putting in the energy, the time, and just burning all those calories in order to get that fire going? Because you've always got to remember, calories are far more easily burnt than they are replaced. So that being said, assuming it's not that awful and you want to get a fire going, it's pretty standard. You're cold, you're wet, a fire is going to be a massive morale boost at a minimum. It's also going to start staving off hypothermia. So it's something to look at doing. The main thing with it is you have to plan and prepare that bit better when you're doing it. Double or triple the amount of kindling you're going to use, the amount of tinder you're going to use, the amount of sticks you're going to use, everything. Make far, far more than you think you could possibly need. And when you think you've got enough, go and do it all again. The more time you spend preparing, the better it's going to be. Because in these conditions, what you really need to do is just get this done straight away. First time's the charm, not third time. So the next part is you're probably going to want to have some form of cover. Get a tarp up. If you've got a tarp, get a tarp up. If you can make a shelter out of just some leafy branches or something, just something or anything that's going to help keep that fire material dry. It's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be ideal, but your whole thing is to minimize the amount of moisture hitting it. And then that comes to your fire lay as well. You need to have a platform to build your fire on. If you try and build it straight on the ground, that ground's going to be damp, it's going to be moist, and it's just going to make it so much harder to get that fire going. So those are a few little bits about mentality of fire in the rain. So main things to take away from there are collect far more materials than you think you need. Always use a platform to build your fire on. Get yourself under some form of cover, or at the bare minimum, get your fire under some form of cover if at all possible. But always be aware of the sort of the calorie to benefit ratio. Is it really going to be necessary? All right, what I'm going to do is run down a few wet weather fire starting methods that you can use at any point. And what I'm going to do is sort of run from easier down to harder in terms of effort you're going to need to do. So the first thing is, the easiest thing, have fire starting material with you. Here I've got some Pathfinder mini. Ugh. No, I don't. I don't have Pathfinder mini infernos in my hand. All right. Sorry. Here I have Pathfinder mini infernos in my hand. This is a small tin you can pick up from selfrelianceoutfitters.com. Other brands are available. And essentially what you get in it are these discs. Now, all you have to do with these discs is break them up, expose the fibers inside, and then they will take a spark very, very easily. You can use a lighter. That's going to be much easier than anything else. Ferro rod will also work. Might even be able to get it done with flint and steel. I've not tried that personally, but that's probably something to put on the bucket list. But these will go on pretty much anything in pretty much any conditions. If you do want to not want to buy these, if you're not going to struggle to find them or whatever, please check the link up here to my friend Tyler at Arkansas Survival, where he has a video that I'll link showing how you can make an equivalent of these at home. It's pretty cheap, it's pretty straightforward. You need a couple of very, very basic items. So yeah, so that's probably the best way to do it in the rain, is to carry a fire starter with you. And obviously, to go along with that, what you want to do, is have a lighter, a good old trusty Bic lighter, where you're going to get 1,001 second flames out of it. So that's your first and should always be your primary option for starting a fire in the rain. You need some kind of solid fire starting or fire extending material and a lighter. It's the easiest way to do it. These weigh nothing, they're tiny. So yeah, simply use these. I couldn't, if I know it's going to be wet out, this and this are always going to be in my pockets, an absolute minimum. So that's option one, the easiest option. Okay, option two. This is one I've used myself many, many times, is duct tape, or gaffer tape as it's sometimes called in the UK. Not all duct tapes are created equal. Really, you need to go for the Gorilla brand stuff. I've used this multiple times. What people don't realize is you can just take this, pull off maybe a foot long strip that down lengthways, build up a small bird's nest of that. It will take a lighter, obviously, but it'll also take a ferro rod as well. And it will give you a remarkable amount of flame extension just to get your initial kindling going. So this is a really good option. Obviously, duct tape, it's multifunctional. It serves a whole lot of other purposes, but you'll be surprised how quickly and easily you can get this going. And again, for size and weight, it's a great option. I've used this into January, December time, and just made a big old ball of it, stuck it down at the bottom, and it gets going pretty quickly. So I'd say that's probably your option number two. It's going to take you a little bit longer than just a little mini inferno and a lighter, but it will work. It's going to get that fire going in the wet. Option number three is going to be fatwood. Here is a piece that I harvested on the way in. As you can see here, if you look, you've got that big red circle there. That's just pure resin, and if you smell it, it smells like turpentine. So with this, I did use it on my video last week to get the fire going. There's tons and tons of pine around here where I'm at now, so it's a really easy resource to do. I'll show you just quickly in a minute how to harvest and process it, but that's a good one. It's more labor intensive than the previous two. You're going to have to put a bit of work in, but it will take a spark from a ferro rod. Now, you're going to want to build, in wet conditions, a good sized ball of it. You're talking softball sized ball. Don't be afraid to add to that with just, shavings from the rest of the stick. It's pine. It's all got some resin content to a greater or lesser degree, but this bit here, the nice dark red bit, that's going to be the really resiny, flammable stuff. So we want our shavings out of that, and then I would certainly use the rest of this, just break it down as much as possible just into kindling, and use that. To start, I'm just going to chop down a couple of lengths here, split them down in order to get a base going that's going to be nice and dry, because the ground underfoot is very damp at the moment. There we go. Yep, that'll work. Option one, the mini inferno. So like I said, we're literally just gonna open this tin up, take out one of our little discs, and then literally we just want to break it. Really sort of scrunch it up and get as many of these fibers on the inside showing. Spend a couple of seconds just giving it a twist, and then so that's what we want. We want all these fibers showing. And you simply lay it on your fire lay, grab whatever fire starting method you have. I'm going to use my ferro rod, knife down there, and there we have it. That simple. One strike. That is now going to go for a good while. So that's it. That is the easiest way of getting a fire started in the rain. That can be soaking through. Even this wood could be soaking wet. Not wet, it could be soaking wood, but hey ho, we'll get there eventually. That's now going to go for a while, and you can just keep piling all your kindling on top of it, starting with your small sticks. And yeah, that's option one. So option number two then, the duct tape. For reference, obviously that's still going. I've moved the camera, I've had a quick drink of water, I've had a couple of little test shots, so that's probably a good 4 to 5 minutes already, plenty of it left. So with our duct tape, what we need to do, start taking off maybe foot long lengths, and then we want to strip these down lengthwise like this, and then strip it down again, so we're getting these little bunched up bits. You can do it as many or as few times as you choose, like that, and then just start building a little ball. What we are wanting to do here is the fibers that run inside the duct tape, you want to expose them. So the more sort of cuts you do, the more of these fibers you expose. Okay, so there we've got about 2 feet's worth of duct tape, or thereabouts. Now I'm going to try and get this with the ferro rod. Now it can take a few attempts with a ferro rod. One idea may well be just to get some ferro scrapings into there to help it. Okay, as we can see, our mini inferno is only just going out. That's got to have been better part of 10 minutes of burn there. So let's give this a try. So that didn't work. Did not want to take the ferro strike, which is one of the disadvantages of the duct tape. Now, that being said, you can always do it the quick and easy way. And the easiest way to do this, once you've got your bundle, take a lighter to it, shouldn't take too long to catch. It's a bit windy today. And once it's going, it's going. So duct tape, yeah, didn't like trying to take a ferro spark there, but it is a really good flame extender. We can see here there's nothing wrong with the duct tape. That's the pile I tried with the ferro rod. That's just melting into a big plasticky goo. And that one there just to show how quick you can do it in. So that was obviously not quite as smooth as the first thing, but as a sheer flame extender to get that kindling going at the beginning, it's a great alternative. Option 3, fatwood. Now you find fatwood in pine trees, and what you're looking for are the branches at the base of the tree that have died, or a dead standing pine. If you've got a whole dead standing pine, or even a fallen dead pine, you're going to find the same thing. But what you're looking for is where the branches meet the trunk, because what happens is when those branches or that tree dies, the resin follows gravity and flows in towards the trunk. And then when it hits the trunk at the juncture just here, it just pulls up and it forms and it soaks into the wood. and that becomes our fire starter. So behind me here, I have a pine. As you can see here, it's got dead branches going round. There's more and more and more going up. But for now, we're going to go for this one. So I don't need, oh, that's the wrong one. I don't need the whole length. So I'll just quickly whip that off there. I don't need that. And then I'm going to come in as tight into the trunk as possible. Just like that there. And oh yeah, we've got a winner here. So first thing is turpentine smell. And it's going to smell very, very strongly of turpentine. And then this is what we're looking for. So you can see at this end, this was the end that was farthest away. It's nice and light, looks like a normal tree branch. When you come to this end, it's dark, and it's that darkness there, that's the resin, that's what's saturated it, and that's what's actually going to take a spark really well. So yeah, that's if not the best one I've seen. It was certainly recently, that's the most saturated I've seen in this area. So now I'm going to show you how to process this down. What we're going to do first, we're going to take our fat piece of fat wood and we're just going to process it down. Now we want this quartered, so it's going to be a couple of bits of batoning. This is where I find I've made my life difficult by getting a wonky branch. I'm trying to keep this well away from my legs. There we go. Now for the fun part. We're going to take our knife and with the 90-degree spine, just the same way as if we were striking a ferro rod, we're going to go down here, just taking shavings off. Now I've processed this fat wood down. I've got this nice little ball here. That only came from this part. I still have these two parts with me. So I would put these in my pack and just keep hold of them because they're going to come in useful to try and start a fire later on. Always have that next fire mentality. Now what I'm going to do, just transfer my ball of fat wood onto my platform. Bring that down there. But now we've got a fat wood, this nice thick resiny wood. This should, you know, all things considered, take a spark. Come on. There we go. So there we have it. That's fat wood. To process this ball down probably took me about 5 minutes worth of shaving. It is a great resource to have. As long as you've got pine around, you're going to have fat wood. And this now is going to sit there and burn for a good little while. So yeah, that's fat wood. That's how to do that, how to find it. Like I say, if you're out and about walking, you know, you spot a pine tree, take off a couple of branches, stick them in your pack. You don't know when they might come in handy because you can't always find pine. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to call it there today. This isn't the video I wanted to make. I wanted to do an overnighter last night, but unfortunately at the moment I'm not in the greatest of ways. I've got some pretty bad insomnia on the go, which is really killing me, largely due to work stress, which hopefully I'm going to try and get sorted. I've got some bits to look forward to coming up. Next weekend I should be doing an introduction to survival talk at an event, which I'm really looking forward to. I've been preparing lots for that. But what I wanted to just say to you guys is, you know, thank you very much for watching once again. Thank you for bearing with me. I know things are a bit different at the moment, but next time I'm coming out, it's going to be an overnighter. Going to get the feather sticks done, but that is how you do some fire starting for wet weather. So thanks everyone for watching. As I always say, get outdoors and go AWOL.